In the year 37 AD, the Roman Empire was under the rule of a man who has since been remembered not only for his cruelty, but also for his eccentricity, Gaius Julius Caesar, better known by his nickname, Caligula. Born into the powerful Julio-Claudian dynasty, Caligula was the son of the famous Roman general Germanicus and the grandson of Emperor Augustus's daughter. His childhood was surrounded by military camps, politics, and whispers of imperial ambition. When he came to power at just 24 years old, Rome expected a strong, capable leader. At first, Caligula was popular. He abolished certain taxes, freed political prisoners, and gave generous bonuses to the military. The people cheered him as a hero. But beneath the young emperor's charming smile, something darker brewed. Ancient sources suggest that only months into his reign, Caligula fell gravely ill. Some say poisoned, others claim a severe fever. Whatever the cause, when he recovered, his personality had shifted. Gone was the benevolent ruler. In his place stood a man who demanded godlike worship, executed senators without trial, and indulged in acts of pure extravagance. Among the most bizarre stories from his reign is his obsession with a single animal, a magnificent horse named Incitatus. This horse, bred for racing, was said to be Caligula's most beloved companion. Ancient writers such as Suetonius claim that the emperor treated Incitatus better than most Roman citizens. He had stables made of marble, feeding troughs of ivory, and attendants who served the horse oats mixed with gold flakes. But it wasn't enough for Caligula to simply pamper his horse. His ambition, or perhaps his madness, drove him further. He wanted to give Incitatus a position of spiritual importance in Roman society. And so, Caligula announced something so absurd it shocked the empire. He would make his horse a priest. This act wasn't just strange. It was deeply symbolic. In Rome, priests held political influence. Religion and politics were intertwined, and priesthoods were prestigious positions, often reserved for noble families. By elevating his horse to such a rank, Caligula wasn't simply making a joke. He was mocking Rome's elite, humiliating the Senate, and showing the people that he could do whatever he pleased, no matter how absurd. Historians have debated for centuries whether this was a sign of insanity or a calculated political insult. But either way, it marked one of the strangest episodes in Roman imperial history, the moment when the most powerful man in the world decided to give his horse the robes of a priest. Incitatus was no ordinary horse. Described as a striking white stallion with a muscular build, he was bred for speed and beauty. His name, meaning swift or rapid, was well suited for his racing career. Caligula's affection for him went far beyond normal admiration for a champion racer. The emperor reportedly built a palace for Incitatus, complete with marble columns, jeweled bridles, and even servants dedicated solely to the animal's comfort. During the night before big races, Caligula ordered total silence around the horse's quarters, threatening execution to anyone who disturbed his rest. This was no longer just a prized racer, this was a royal favorite. Caligula's public appearances with Incitatus blurred the line between man and beast in Roman society. He would invite foreign dignitaries to banquets where the horse was the guest of honor. Incitatus was even said to drink wine from golden goblets and dine alongside the emperor. Some sources suggest that Caligula hosted elaborate feasts in which senators were forced to toast the horse's health, a humiliation that further deepened their resentment toward him. The priesthood Caligula envisioned for Incitatus was likely tied to the cult of the emperor and the Roman gods. By appointing the horse as a priest, Caligula may have been making a bold statement about the nature of power, that he alone could decide who was worthy of honor, even if it was a four-legged creature. It also served as an insult to Rome's religious institutions, which Caligula increasingly viewed as tools for his own amusement. In a society where omens, rituals, and divine favor were deeply intertwined with politics, giving such a sacred title to a horse was blasphemous. Yet Caligula seemed to revel in the outrage it caused. Some historians believe that he was mocking the Senate, suggesting that his horse could do a better job as a priest than many human officials. Whether or not the horse ever officially performed priestly duties is unclear, but the announcement alone was enough to cement Caligula's reputation as an unpredictable and dangerous ruler. His relationship with Incitatus became a symbol of the emperor's excess, arrogance, and disregard for tradition. But Caligula's reign was not destined to last long. His erratic behavior, combined with his cruelty toward the Senate and the Praetorian Guard, would soon lead to a violent end. Yet the story of Incitatus would live on, a bizarre reminder of how absolute power can twist reality, turning even a horse into a political weapon. To understand why Caligula's act of making his horse a priest was so provocative, we have to look at Roman politics. The Senate, though stripped of much of its real power by the emperors, still saw itself as a guardian of Roman tradition. Senators came from noble families, steeped in centuries of political authority. For Caligula to elevate a horse to priesthood was not only absurd, it was a direct insult to their dignity. Ancient historians like Cassius Dio and Suetonius paint Caligula as a ruler who delighted in humiliating the Senate. He reportedly forced senators to run alongside his chariot in full ceremonial robes, mocked them openly in public, and turned serious government meetings into performances for his own amusement. By making Incitatus a priest, Caligula was essentially saying, "I have so much power that I can replace you with an animal, and there is nothing you can do about it." This mockery also played into Caligula's self-image as a divine figure. He often appeared in public dressed as gods like Jupiter or Apollo, and demanded temples be built for his worship. In his mind, if he was a living god, then his horse, his chosen companion, was worthy of divine honors as well. For the people of Rome, reactions were mixed. Some may have found it amusing, a moment of absurdity in the chaos of imperial politics. Others saw it as a sign of dangerous instability. Whispered conversations in marketplaces and taverns carried a mix of disbelief and fear. If the emperor would make his horse a priest, what might he do next? It is also worth noting that not all historians agree on the literal truth of the story. Some believe that Caligula never actually appointed Incitatus as a priest, but rather threatened to do so as part of his ongoing mockery of the Senate. The tale could have been exaggerated over time by his political enemies to emphasize his madness. Regardless of whether it happened exactly as told, the story endured because it captured something essential about Caligula's reign: his blend of cruelty, theatricality, and disregard for the norms that had held Rome together for centuries. In January of 41 AD, after less than 4 years on the throne, Caligula's reign came to a bloody end. A conspiracy led by members of the Praetorian Guard and disillusioned senators ended with the emperor's assassination. He was stabbed repeatedly in a palace corridor, his body left mutilated on the ground. His wife and young daughter were also killed. The fate of Incitatus after Caligula's death is not recorded in detail. Most likely, the horse was returned to a simpler life, stripped of his lavish privileges, and kept by a new owner. Without Caligula's protection, the animal's days of marble stables and golden feed bowls were over. Yet the legend lived on. Over the centuries, the tale of Caligula and his horse became a symbol in political discourse, a cautionary example of how absolute power can be abused, and how leaders can mock the very institutions they are meant to uphold. The image of a horse in priestly robes remains one of the most striking reminders of Rome's most infamous rulers. Modern historians debate the accuracy of the account, pointing out that much of what we know about Caligula comes from sources written decades after his death, often by hostile authors. Still, even if the details were exaggerated, the story's survival for nearly 2,000 years shows its power as a political and moral lesson. In the end, whether or not Caligula truly made his horse a priest matters less than what the story represents. The arrogance of unchecked authority, the blending of spectacle and governance, and the thin line between eccentricity and madness in the corridors of power. Rome produced many great leaders, but it also gave the world examples of tyranny at its most bizarre. And perhaps none are more unforgettable than the young emperor who treated his horse like a god, proving that in ancient Rome, even the strangest rumors could become eternal history.